Good morning and welcome to this week's Eve Prosper Market Show. This is episode number 9 for the week of Christmas. I'm doing this show on Boxing Day because Christmas is a hard time to actually do a stream. So hello to all of my Euro friends who may not have been able to watch the show live yet. I have a pretty good show in store for you this week. News has been pretty light, but there's been a lot of interesting little market spikes going on. CCP did announce the new features for the next expansion, which I can't remember the name of, and there should also be some interesting little meta things going on the market. So without further ado, let's get into the normal show. Next week, we'll probably have a rescheduled time because of New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Expect another 1800 show. I don't know which day, so just keep posted on Twitter. I'll announce it as soon as I have the schedule figured out. Next, if we go to the news, some features were announced on Friday. Specifically, the team security did a dev blog about bans and the new rules going into the new year. It's worth reading just to keep up on the rules, but the TLDR is that expect 2015 the EULA to be more strictly enforced than it has been previously. Over the last year or so, there's been a lot of gray space that people have been able to do semi-illicit stuff in, and it's been sort of like, well, okay, we won't ban you, but we really would prefer we really wish you rather didn't. Things like cache scraping and ISBoxer and input macroing. And I think the signal you should be reading from the Team Security Dev blog is that shit is coming to an end. We'll cover that in a bit when we get down to Plex. I have some notes from Noisy Gamer. We had a discussion over Twitter this week that I think will be really interesting. The really interesting market fallout, because I didn't get a chance to cover this last week, was that Recons have been announced to finally get a change. So my good buddy Fyridian will finally get to sell off that stock of Recons that he's been sitting on forever and ever and ever. So, just to start, I know we usually start with Plex, but let's talk about Recons because they are the hot shit right now. The Recon changes can be broken into two groups. Force Recons, which have traditionally been the cloaky Recons, they can use the Covert Ops cloaking device. Those are staying relatively similar. Some of the weirdness is being fixed with respect to slot layouts, and some bonuses are changed a little bit, except for Amar, which they're changed a lot. And but in all, they're sort of keeping their same niche, and they're not really changing a bunch. So we can see the Falcon did a quick peak up, but has come back down. I sort of expect it to oscillate back up again. The Rapier, I have a whole mess of this stupid Outlier screwed up my graph, so I'm going to have to redo this one. The Pilgrim, which is the Amar, had their bonuses adjusted to include a range bonus rather than a strength bonus for their newts and nosses. That's the word. And we saw a big speculative spike, but the prices are coming back down. I expect them to level out here in the 160 million range. They might spike up a little bit again when some more information comes out. And then the Arazu got its slot layout adjusted, and I think we also saw that it got a gun slot added, I believe. So we may have seen it stay flat, and then once the new announcements came out with some more rebalancing tweaks, it should go up a little bit. The real movement is in the combat recons, which traditionally have had stronger bonuses, but don't get to use the cloaking device. And this has left them for some really, really niche uses in fleets. Like, you either have to have a huge fleet, or you have to be extremely good at flying these. You got to have a really weird fit. Like the Rook has been one that was weird. I've seen stuff where you've put like rapid heavy missile launchers on it, and you sort of hide it in a larger fleet. But they're paper thin. The thing that changed, the biggest change here, is that they are now getting a D-scan immunity. All the ships in the combat recon group are getting a D-scan immunity. And this is huge. So even though you can still probe them out and you can still see them on field when they land, you won't know if a fleet has them ahead of time. So it's like having a cloak, except you get it for free, essentially. We see the Hugin spiked up and is coming back down a little bit. I sort of expect it to stay at this 180 range, maybe go a little bit up to the 190 range. The Lachesis has also spiked up. I expect this one to stay again near the 200 level because I personally have a soft spot for extended point range. And then the Curse has gone from the ugly stepchild, basically built at cost, all the way up to 200 million, and it has been staying high. Now, it's too late to go speculate in them, but if you are a builder, this would be a great time to go build a buttload of Curses and go ride this until the bubble pops. Now, let's go on to our normal part of the show where we talk about Plex. It's been a really anemic time for Plex over December. So, as I've said before, and I've said on the previous shows, and I'll say it again, December we expect prices to go down because of out-of-game sales, and we see that we've actually dipped below the 800 line, which honestly surprised me. I didn't expect it to go all the way down to 800. The thing worth noting here is the dip into oversold territory. I think that this part is unprecedented. We only ever see Plex touch the bottom line of the RSI, and now we're actually underneath it. So I expect this to rubber band pretty quickly. I also expect prices to be back at 850 right after New Year's. Right now, it's absolutely a buy, like just take all of your money and put it into Plex kind of buy rating. I expect the prices to snap back right after the first. Now, I had a bit of an argument on Twitter with Noisy Gamer, who, if you haven't read his blog, he talks a lot about the illicit ISK trade market. And his stuff is really interesting. I have a hard time getting my hands around it because I don't know how to automate it to really do it beyond gut feelings. But he does some really interesting reports. And we were talking about the Team Security dev blog, in that he expects bans to be hotter than most expect them to be. And this is because the way the wording has gone out about a couple of things. One, that people are still trying to run IS Boxer till the bitter end. So they're still trying to grind up their ISK and flood the supply. And also there's been a swarm to buy and sell ISK illicitly, because of the 3 strikes rule being reduced to 2 strikes like the rest of the botting blogs. I'm going to link his blog in the YouTube doobly-doo. It's definitely worth reading. And after talking with him, I'm sort of uneasy about my billion ISK Plex by February 1st prediction that I've been standing by for a few months now. We might see Plex stay flat in the first week of January as bans start to go out and things shift into a new normal. But once the team security stuff is figured out and we have that subset cleaned up, I expect Plexes to go back up at the rate they had been going up historically. So I expect us to be back over 800 on the 1st. I expect to be at 850 in a week after that. I expect to be near 900 by the end of January. We'll see. Forecasting Plex has been a difficult thing. I know that most of the other people I follow who do market predictions are still predicting Plex prices to fall. So I'm going to be contrary and say they're going up after the 1st. So keep an eye on that. I think it's a great time to buy at under 800. It is a steal compared to recent history. Next, let's talk about minerals, because it's time to talk about minerals. There's not a whole ton to say about it this week. I've got some notes on the mid-level minerals, but low ends have stayed relatively stable with TRIT at 6.2. Pyrite is doing another one of those weird spikes like we saw last week. The week before, sorry. Where we had this hot spike and then stayed flat, and hot spike and stayed flat. I think 12.5 is still a bit high, but we might see it stabilize at 12.4 or 12.3-ish. It's still pretty high. I think this is still a little bit weird, but we might actually see the prices continue to go up until the 1st, where they might stabilize then. Mexilon has stayed flat, but the actual demand on it has been extremely low. We don't usually see minerals flag the sales volume trackers that we use. Both Mexilon and Noxium triggered our low volume flags. Isogen had a dip and then a reset. I expect it to stay relatively flat at this level until after the 1st, at which point I sort of expect it to start trending down very slightly. So if you have Isogen to sell it now. Noxium has been staying flat, but again, the volumes are very low, which is weird. Zydrine is staying flat. I expect Zydrine to continue staying flat. And Megasite has stayed flat, but I expect it to start going down at the start of the year. And Morphite has stayed sort of stable, but I don't like predicting Morphite because I'm really bad at it. Moving on to fuel. Starting with nitrogen isotopes, we're seeing a quick spike here. Most other fuels are staying near the 700 mark, but Caldari ice is up at the 800 mark. I think this spike isn't real. I think this is going to come back down to under 820 pretty quick. If it stays high for much longer, we'll see. I think that we may see a slight upward pressure on ice after the 1st, but since things are limited the way they are, with the high-sec ice belt spawning mechanics the way they are, I still expect a very high efficiency on Caldari ice, on actually all ice mined in high-sec, just that it takes more of the day to get to that efficiency. So we'll see how things go. Caldari fuel blocks have stayed stable. Nothing really fun to say here. Oxygen isotopes came down to 700 and are trending up. Again, I think it's the same thing we're seeing on Caldari ice. We might see some oscillations up and down between the 700 and 750 mark. I don't expect it to go much higher, is my point. Galente fuel blocks have been taking a huge dive, so if you have a Galente tower, you might want to go stock up, because with the prices of fuel going up slightly, I expect this to follow that trend. Helium has stayed flat, as has Amar fuel, and hydrogen has stayed flat, and Minmatar fuel blocks are going up. So if you have the ability to go build them and sell them, I'd sell them off real quick, but I expect this to come back down to this 140k level. Now to move on to our outlier analysis, even though we already did the recons. All right. Starting with moon materials, there have been some interesting spikes going around moon products, starting with phenolic composites. This spike is hilariously high. There is no good reason for it. If you have phenolic composites, you better go sell them. If you are buying them, I would hold out for a couple of days. This is stupid, and this is not real. Next is siluramic fibers. They're doing a very similar spike. We see them come into this unstable territory on the RSI plot. And again, I expect this to be a bubble to pop, and we'll be back down at the 260 level in a couple of days. So if you need it, hold out. If you're selling, get it to market and make money. There have also been some spikes that I didn't put in the show here. Things like cobalt, dysprosium, evaporite deposits, which is just frickin' stupid. That stuff is essentially free. Platinum, which is interesting because that might have been a delayed reaction to the high nanotransistor price a couple of weeks ago. And then vanadium is also high, which I think is leading to the phenolic spike that we just talked about. So keep an eye out there. I think most of this moon stuff is hilariously unstable, so I expect it to be fixed next week. But it'll also be worth watching in that first week of the new year when everyone goes back to a somewhat normal schedule. And we'll see if there's actually something bigger and badder brewing out there. Moving on to PI products, enriched uranium has been on a tear upwards. So if you have the means to build it, this would be a great place to go be cashing out. Also, this might reflect somewhat in the price of fuel, but it's a small piece of the pie, so I don't really advocate holding on to this in the hopes that fuel prices will go up. Another interesting one that I think is hilariously low, there might have been a stock dump of some sort, is transmitters. It's another P2 product. And usually these go into drones, and I don't know if the drone market has popped or anything. I think the prices are rather low. This would be a great chance to go buy up for speculation, because I do expect them to be at a bit of a higher mark than they are right now. They may still have room to fall, so take this with a grain of salt, but that's what I expect for transmitters. And then on the high end of the PI spectrum, integrity response drones have been spiking pretty hard. Again, I expect this to be a temporary thing. I think this is just a fluke sort of market buyout. But if you have integrity response drones to sell, today would be the day to do it. The Arbitrator is one of the ships that flagged this week. Volumes have been very high, and this is most likely due to the Curse being so popular. People are buying out as much of the T1 as they can get their hands on, because it ends up being the bottleneck in the Tech 2 production tree. If you are in the Tech 1 building market, Arbitrators would be a great place to go burn some of those minerals. This most recent spike I think is unstable, but there should be a decent amount of profit to make. Another interesting ship on the list is the Caldari Navy Hookbill. As I'd said a couple of weeks ago, I expect the Confessor to take the wind out of a lot of the small solo ships. And so I'm a little conflicted on what to tell you about the Caldari Navy Hookbill. We see the price has come down off the trend line. And I don't think the Confessor is a good replacement for the Hookbill, in all honesty. But this might be a good chance to buy up some as speculation. Also, Caldari Militia might finally be getting off their asses with their loyalty points, so that this might still have a little bit of room to fall. Another interesting one, which I thought was super interesting, is the Sabre is way down, and I can't tell you why. For those who aren't in Null, the Sabre is a extremely popular interdictor, and it's strange to see it so low compared to its recent history. This would be a great chance to go buy some. Also, you might want to prep your industrial lines to build them, because I expect these to jump right back up again. I still think the Sabre has a powerful spot in everyone's heart, and I think that it's abnormally low, and this would be a great chance to go buy some. Speaking of the Confessor, there's been some rather hilarious price spikes surrounding the small laser and small armor ship markets. This Aurora S graph, I don't put your money into it specifically, but it just sort of illustrates the crazy demand lately for everything that has to do with small lasers. I don't think this is directly tied to the laser buff. I think this is mostly Confessor meta kind of stuff. I expect the price to come down off of here. I think this is way, way too high, but we'll see where it goes. Another one on the Confessor hype train is the small auxiliary nanopump 2 for more armor HP. I want to say that, and hopefully I didn't get that wrong. Didn't cross my try marks and my nanopumps. We see this huge spike up a couple of weeks ago, and the prices have stayed pretty high. So if you can go build them, this would be a great chance to go build them. We're seeing a little bit of the market catching up with itself as it's coming down, but I still think there's a huge margin to be made just in building them. Another interesting one that's not Confessor related is the medium sentry damage augmenter ones have been spiking up really high. This looks like something like a coalition is ramping up for a meta change. Again, we've missed the boat as far as buying into this spike, but I think as a builder, these are extremely easy to build. The volumes aren't very high. We're only seeing 20 something a day being sold, but the price is just way up there. So if you can go throw 10 or something at the market, I think you can go make a decent amount of money. Another interesting one, which I'm only highlighting because I think it's a good chance to go buy in, even though there's not a ton of volume moved through here, is the Xenu Deadeye Missile Projection MP009 is tracking rather low. So if you're listening to the show live, go to Jita, go buy out a bunch, sit on them for a few days, and sell them. I wouldn't buy more than like 10 because I think it's going to be hard to sell those. But it's just an interesting little flag that that might be worth putting in your hat. The other piece of news that I sort of glossed over was that meta levels are being revisited again. The whole module tiericide project is moving forward. And so I think the groups, I'd have to look up what exactly the groups are this time, but just as sort of proof of concept, the mining lasers were on this round. And we can see the dual diode mining laser 1s. Somebody bought them all out because of the dev blog, but they're back down to the pre-price. So we'll see where this goes. I don't expect it to actually, whoever bought up all the way up here, I don't think you're actually going to make any money. But whatever, we'll see what happens. When it comes to speculating on the meta level changes, the thing I saw on the last round and the thing I'm seeing this round is we keep seeing these really hot spikes as people sort of like jump on a change thinking that it's going to change the world. And then we don't actually see it pan out like we saw with the... I don't remember what was in the last group. I want to say coprocessors were in the last group. And I mean, we saw some pretty hot spikes, and there's some rather crazy trading, but like it came right back down to its normal level. It didn't really move up, and unless you're expecting it to somehow make money in 18 months, I think you're a bit silly. So that's what I have to say about speculating in the meta level stuff. I think as we get closer to weapons being rebalanced, there will be a time to buy up stuff and see where it goes. Like, if you really want to get ahead of the curve, you should be going out and getting the different meta levels of guns that might be cheap at any one time. I have a hard time believing that any of the other... Like, okay, so only offensive modules would I really want to bank money on. So things like E-War modules I would be buying up if you can get them cheap. Things like, I sort of expect webs and points to get some interesting things done, but I don't think the prices will move much. And then guns I think will be worth investing in ahead of time, but if you're waiting for your big day to come with on the day that they announce the changes, then you're doing it wrong, because these resets I think are going to be very hot and very fast, and then we're going to come right back down again. And I think this is the last on my... Nope, it's not last on my list. Another one on my list that flagged was Amar Control Towers, and I know I covered this 2 weeks ago and blamed it on the head invasion that PL is doing against Brave. And again, we see another price spike, and I'm not sure what's driving it. It might be another invasion. By the time this is on the air, I sort of expect the prices to be coming down again, but if you have them, sell them. If you build them and you can get them on the market by tomorrow, then build them. I don't expect it to be a hot crash, so we should still have this area to make money in, but I don't expect it to go much higher than it is now. Also, selling off the stuff might be a pain in the ass. The last bit I wanted to cover is there has been a downward trend in a lot of the Tech 3 cruiser subsystems and hulls, and I just picked up a couple of things just to highlight the trend. Specifically, here is the Tengu Defensive Adaptive Shielding submodule, and it's coming down pretty steeply in price. I don't know who has changed their meta. This might be Nullsec selling off in lieu of a meta change. So we'll see where this goes. I hate speculating in the Tech 3 market because I never feel like I do a very good job here. Here's the Proteus Offensive Dasonic encoding platform, which is kind of a weird one to highlight, I know. But again, we're seeing a deflationary trend here. I think that we're seeing a shift in null meta for fleet compositions. Unfortunately, I have no idea to what. So maybe by next week I'll have it figured out and I'll be able to tell you how to go make a bunch of money. And then the last part of the show, we're going to talk about predictions from the last couple of shows and see how bad I am at this. First is the Dual Beam Laser 2 that goes along with my confessors sort of advice. They're extremely high at the moment. If you are building, this would be a great place to go dump a whole load of them. We're looking at about 300 to 400 selling a day at the moment. This is a bubble. It is totally going to pop, but make hay while the sun shines. Go build a bunch, sell them all off, go fly something sexy. Another interesting one, which I should have highlighted last week and I didn't, is the Praetor 2 drones. They went down big time for no good reason and then went ahead and reset. And so if I had told you to buy here, and frankly my tools should have highlighted this, you would have been able to make a bunch of money. So that's my bad. I should highlight these things better. Another one from last week's show is the Tristan. We saw this big spike up, and I kind of gave this shrugging, if you can build them, sell them advice, but then they came right back down to their historical level, which actually might be losing you money with the new levels on Trit and such. So that was a bad call, and sorry about that. And I still don't have a violence report, but I really like the slide. So that's going to do it for the week of Christmas here on the Prosper Market Show. As a closing remark, I'm going to have a contest on YouTube, and I'm going to go put this on the blog and on Twitter, of course, where I'm giving away a Plex or two to try and get... I'm going to give away a Plex or two for the YouTube people. Getting really close to the 500 subscriber mark, and I'd love to get over that hump. So, before the next show, which will be New Year's or New Year's Day or the day after, what I'm looking for is people to send me their market and industry stories that would make a cool This Is Eve story. I think we have a ton of great stories about killing people, but we don't have a lot of great stories about being a market tycoon. So what I'm going to go do is I'm going to put together a Google forum that you guys can go and just be like, this is my pilot name. Here's like 200 words about my story. I'll collate them all and then announce the winner live on the next show, and we'll give out a Plex. So, for instance, one of my stories might be that when I was building Tech 2, one of the things I used to do was I used to go out to all of the hubs, the little systems that are on the border of like LowSec and NullSec. So places like whatever is next to HeadGB and places like Norvukaiken and all those kind of like PvP resupply areas. And I remember I was trading in Ichioria, which is the entrance for the Caldari faction warfare guys. And I was selling my stuff for a while, and this guy came by, and he was selling at like nearly Jita prices. And it's like 15 jumps from Jita to get to Ichioria or something, so I was really annoyed. I was sick of this guy eating up my margins in one of my best performing stations. So I went ahead and I hired some mercs to camp him in station and make his life miserable, and his orders went away, and I managed to be able to pay off the the mercenaries off of the added margin entirely, which was really great. So stuff like that, I would really love to hear. Like, I had a trade war with a guy and he rage quitted and sent me tears, or me and my corp got together and we built like a really big ship. We mined all the minerals, stuff like that. And so the information will be on YouTube at youtube.com/EveProsper. It'll also be on the blog at eve-prosper.blogspot.com. I'm working on getting a website, so hopefully next week I'll have something to announce on that. And you can catch me on Twitter at HLibIndustries. So again, tune in this next week. Subscribe on YouTube at youtube.com/EveProsper, because we'll be running that contest. I'll be especially happy if we can get to 500 subscribers on there. I will drop more details on both the blog and Twitter as soon as I have everything lined up. And we'll be back next week once again for another Eve Prosper Market Show. Now, for everyone who's tuned in live, I'm going to stop the stream and we're going to do 30 minutes of Q&A. And if you're watching on YouTube, then this is the end of the show. So thanks again for tuning in. I've been your host, Lockefox. Tune in next week to hear about great market stories, and we'll be back once again in just a minute.